If you are listening to this now, it's because life has reached a breaking point for you. Maybe you can't clearly name what's happening, but you feel it. Something inside is cracking. Something you've ignored for too long is demanding attention. It's not random. It's not an accident. This is the inevitable moment when the life you've been pretending to live collides with the life you were truly meant to live. Carl Jung described this experience as the call to individuation. It's the soul's refusal to keep wearing masks, created only to survive, to please, or to fit in. At some point, the persona you've built, the polite version of you, the successful version, the version that never offends, becomes unbearable. You realize that the identity you've maintained isn't who you really are. It's only a survival strategy. And when that mask starts to suffocate you, collapse comes. This collapse is not a failure. It is a summons. It's the soul raising its voice, because every whisper you ignored, every restless night, every quiet breakdown, every subtle dream wasn't enough. Now the psyche must scream so that you finally hear. The discomfort you once brushed aside transforms into despair. Fatigue turns into paralysis. Doubt morphs into anguish. And in the middle of all this pain, you realize you cannot keep living the same way. Jung warned that the greatest danger of modern life isn't chaos. It's unconscious adaptation. It's living a life that doesn't belong to you and not even realizing it. That's why the psyche intervenes through suffering. Pain is not a defect. Pain is a message. It says, this is not who you are. Look closely at your life right now. Maybe you're in a relationship that quietly drains you, a job that pays the bills but murders your soul, or a lifestyle built on the weight of expectations you never chose. On the outside, everything may look normal. Smiling pictures, steady income, polite conversations. But on the inside, you feel the split. Like there's a part of you watching your own life from afar, silently asking, is this it? That dissociation is not an illness. It is consciousness trying to emerge. It's your authentic self knocking at the door, demanding space. Society told you to adapt, to settle, to keep quiet. But adaptation becomes toxic when it costs you your essence. The real catastrophe isn't losing a job, a relationship, or a reputation. The real catastrophe is losing yourself. And that's why you've landed here. At this precise moment, what you're experiencing is not coincidence. It's inevitability. This message appears when you need it most, because your unconscious is actively searching for symbols, reflections, and voices that can confirm what you already feel but cannot yet articulate. You are not broken. You are being called to shed the persona, to face your shadow, and to rediscover the truth of who you are. This is the beginning, and it can no longer be postponed. Most people move through life like sleepwalkers. They wake up, go to work, follow routines, meet expectations, and repeat. Society rewards them for this obedience. Stability, comfort, and acceptance are the prizes for never questioning the script. But deep inside, something feels wrong. Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self that the greatest danger to the human spirit is not misery or madness. It's massification. It's the transformation of individuals into replaceable cogs within a collective machine. When you start to feel suffocated by your own normal routine, that suffocation is not weakness, it's a sign. It's the psyche telling you, this is not you. Maybe you followed every rule studied, worked hard, found a partner, smiled in the photos, and yet you feel empty. That emptiness is not failure. It's consciousness waking up. It's the signal that the persona you built to survive is no longer enough to truly live. The normality sold to us is a sophisticated trap. It gives you comfort in exchange for your freedom. You get likes, entertainment, and steady paychecks, but the cost is high. You sacrifice spontaneity, authenticity, and truth. Over time, you forget what it means to be alive. You keep functioning, but inside, you're dying. Jung warned that the unlived life itself is a kind of illness, one that slowly kills you, day by day, without you even realizing it. And yet, the soul does not give up easily. When ignored, it escalates its messages. At first, you feel small restlessness, then boredom, then chronic fatigue, if still ignored. The signals intensify into despair, breakdown, and collapse. This collapse is not punishment, it's an initiation. It's the psyche refusing to let you die in a life that isn't yours. At this stage, strange things start to happen. You begin to attract messages, symbols, and signs that seem perfectly timed. A book falls into your hands at just the right moment. A conversation feels oddly directed at your deepest struggle. A video like this one appears in your feed exactly when you're at the edge. These moments are not accidents. Jung called them synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that arise when the unconscious communicates with the conscious mind. The unconscious doesn't shout in logical arguments. It whispers through symbols. It works through dreams that repeat, through songs that move you for no reason. through random lines in books that feel written for you. These are not random. They are invitations. The psyche knows that the ego resists change, so it bypasses logic and speaks in a language you cannot easily ignore, symbols that pierce straight through to the soul. And when you encounter them, something inside you recognizes, this is for me, even if you can't explain why. Even if your rational mind protests, your soul knows. This message is not generic, it is intimate. It arrives when you're finally ready to stop pretending and start listening. This is where the journey truly begins. But it comes with a terrifying demand. You must confront fear. Every real transformation requires a crossing, and every crossing demands a leap, not a leap of logic, not even a leap of external action at first, but a psychic leap. Jung described this moment as the threshold of individuation, the point where the carefully constructed mask, the persona that kept you safe, becomes the very prison you must escape. This is the moment most people retreat, because the leap is terrifying. It feels like stepping into darkness without a map, leaving behind the familiar life, even if that life was suffocating for a reality you cannot yet see. The ego clings to certainty, to comfort, to the illusion of safety, but the soul is pushing you toward freedom, and freedom always requires risk. Jung often compared this moment to confronting the archetypal dragon. The dragon is not outside, it lives inside. It is the embodiment of your fears, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of disappointing others, fear of being alone, fear of losing everything you've built. The dragon whispers in countless voices, "You're not ready. You'll regret this. You'll lose everything. Better stay where you are." But here's the paradox. If you stay, you'll still lose everything. You'll lose your vitality, your authenticity, your life force. Fear is not a sign that you should retreat. Fear is the sign that you are standing at the doorway of transformation. Jung said the encounter with the self always begins as an encounter with the shadow. The abyss you've been avoiding, the emotions you've suppressed, the truths you've denied. Before rebirth comes death, not physical death, but the symbolic death of who you pretended to be. And yes, it hurts. It feels like grief. You mourn the comfort of old roles, the predictability of old routines, the false sense of belonging you once had. But what dies is not you. What dies is the shell, the polished mask, the survival identity. What remains is raw, trembling, alive. Think of every major turning point in your life. Was it easy? Or did it come with fear? Fear is always present at the edges of growth. It's not your enemy, it's your compass. It marks the exact place where you must go. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you're searching for. This is why Jung insisted, you don't need to be fully ready. No one ever is. Readiness is a myth created by fear to keep you paralyzed. The only requirement is to be tired enough of the lie, exhausted enough from the pretense, desperate enough for truth to say, I don't know what comes next, but I cannot stay here any longer. That is the leap. Not certainty, but courage. Not perfection, but willingness. Not control, but surrender. And when you leap, something extraordinary happens. You realize no one is coming to save you. The responsibility is yours and yours alone. One of the hardest truths you will ever face is this. No one is coming to save you. Not a partner, not a parent, not a friend, not a guru, not even a system. You may have spent years waiting for your boss to recognize your worth, for your partner to finally change, for your family to understand you, for society to reward your sacrifices. But that waiting is an illusion. It is the unconscious fantasy of the inner child, still hoping that someone will swoop in and fix what feels unbearable. Jung taught that individuation, the process of becoming your true self, cannot be outsourced. No one can walk this path for you. Every step must be yours, every choice, every mistake, every breakthrough. This realization can feel like abandonment at first. You may even resist it, clinging to the belief that someone, somewhere, holds the answer. But in truth, the only one who can carry you across the threshold is you. Radical responsibility doesn't mean everything that happened to you was your fault. Pain, betrayal, injustice, these may not be of your making. But healing, that is entirely your task. Responsibility means you stop outsourcing your freedom. It means you recognize that, even if others wounded you, it is you who must decide not to stay wounded forever. This is why the system thrives on your passivity. It trains you to wait, to obey, to consume. It keeps you distracted with endless entertainment, shallow relationships, and promises of later. Later you'll rest. Later you'll change. Later you'll live. But later never comes. The truth is brutally simple. As long as you keep waiting for someone else to grant you permission, you'll continue living someone else's life. At some point, you must declare, enough. Enough waiting. Enough postponing. Enough playing small. The discomfort inside you, the gnawing dissatisfaction, is not a signal to endure more. It's the soul's command to rise. Of course, the ego resists. It tells you you're unprepared, that the risk is too high, that you'll end up alone, But look closely. Isn't that the same voice that's kept you stuck all along? The ego doesn't care if you're miserable. It only cares that you survive. But you were not born merely to survive. You were born to live. Taking full responsibility is not glamorous. It doesn't mean instant success or a neatly paved road. It often begins quietly with small choices, difficult decisions, uncomfortable silences. But each time you choose yourself, you reclaim a piece of your life force. And as that force returns, something remarkable becomes clear. The line between survival and authentic living is drawn not by others, but by you. And here lies the great question. What exists on the other side of this fear? After you accept that no savior is coming, Jung's answer was clear. What waits there is real life. There is an invisible line separating the life you're living from the life you were meant to live. And that line is not made of external obstacles. It's not about money or status or whether people approve of you. The line is made of fear. Fear of failing, fear of disappointing, fear of being alone, fear of leaving the safe but suffocating cave of normality. Carl Jung taught that fear is not your enemy. Fear is a guardian. It stands at the doorway of transformation like a silent sentinel, testing your resolve. Every time you feel deep dread about leaving a toxic relationship, quitting a soul-killing job, or speaking your truth, it's not because you're weak. It's because you are standing at the threshold of something sacred. Fear is the sign that you are close to touching your true self, the persona you've worn all these years, polite, functional, smiling once served you. It kept you safe. It allowed you to fit in. But what once protected you has become a prison. And the key to freedom lies hidden in the very place you least want to look within your fear. Look at the emotions you've tried hardest to avoid, the emptiness you distract yourself from with constant busyness, the grief you bury under productivity, the loneliness you silence with shallow connections. These aren't defects, they are signals. They are your soul trying to push you toward the life that actually belongs to you. This is why avoidance only deepens suffering. The more you resist, the stronger the symptoms become: anxiety, despair, emotional numbness. The psyche doesn't punish, it insists. It insists until you listen, and once you dare to listen, fear reveals its paradox. It isn't blocking you, it's guiding you. It points directly to where growth is waiting. Think of the moments in life when you did something brave, even while terrified. You confessed your feelings, you made a change, you spoke up, and afterward, you felt not smaller, but larger. Fear dissolved because it had completed its purpose, to lead you exactly where you needed to go. So the question is no longer, how can I get rid of fear? But will I let fear stop me? Or will I step through it? Because beyond that line lies your authentic life. Not the life others scripted for you, not the safe version you've rehearsed, but the one you secretly ache for. The one that demands your courage. Jung reminded us that the self is always waiting beyond the shadow to meet it. You must cross the territory of fear. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be willing. And once you step through, you discover something astonishing. Fear was never the real barrier. The barrier was the belief that you couldn't live without the mask. When you step through fear, you don't instantly find paradise. What you find is raw life, uncertain, unpolished, but real. And in this rawness, a new responsibility emerges: to live authentically, without waiting for external validation. Jung emphasized that the path of individuation is not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming whole. Wholeness includes the shadow, the anger, the grief, the shame, the impulses you've spent years suppressing. Most people try to edit their lives into a highlight reel, presenting only what looks admirable. But the unconscious won't tolerate selective living. It pushes the rejected parts back into awareness until you integrate them. This is why pain is not an obstacle, it's the path itself. Every symptom, every breakdown, every sleepless night is your psyche's way of saying, look here, pay attention. This is where healing begins. Society tells you to fix the pain, numb the pain, hide the pain. But Jung argued that the pain must be honored. It's a message, not a malfunction. When you stop numbing yourself and start listening, something shifts. You begin to see that suffering isn't just random cruelty. It's a threshold. It forces you to stop running and to face the parts of yourself you've denied. This confrontation feels like death, at first the death of your old identity, but it is also a birth. What collapses is the mask. What emerges is the self. Integration doesn't happen all at once. At first, you may swing between extremes, one day feeling empowered, the next consumed by doubt. This fluctuation is natural. Think of it like emotional tectonic plates shifting. The old structures are breaking, and the ground beneath you shakes. That shaking isn't a sign of failure. It's evidence of transformation. Consider the dreams that surface during this stage. Jung often saw patients report recurring dreams of falling, drowning, or wandering lost. These images weren't warnings of doom. They were symbols of transition. Falling means the old ground is gone. Drowning means the old self is dissolving. Being lost means the map no longer applies. And yet, all of these are necessary precursors to renewal. It's here that synchronicities intensify. You notice pattern songs, conversations, random encounters that mirror your inner process. These are not accidents. They're confirmations from the unconscious that you're moving in the right direction. They remind you that even when you feel most alone, something deeper is guiding you. Still, this stage demands patience. Real transformation is not quick. It's messy, nonlinear, and often uncomfortable. But discomfort is proof that you've left the cage of false normality. And once you've tasted even a glimpse of authenticity, going back becomes impossible. The system may still try to lure you with distractions, with promises of safety, with the illusion of belonging. But once you know the truth, you can't unknow it. The only way forward is through. And what lies through the darkness is not more despair, but the beginning of freedom. As you continue this journey, a painful but liberating realization emerges. The life you thought was secure was never truly yours. It was borrowed, imposed, inherited a patchwork of expectations from family, culture, and society. And the collapse you've been experiencing isn't the end of your life, but the end of a lie. Jung warned that the greatest tragedy isn't external loss, but the unlived life. Millions of people spend decades chasing stability, approval, and roles that keep them safely hidden within the herd. They gain comfort, but sacrifice authenticity. They are praised for being reliable, agreeable, and successful, but inside, they feel hollow. This hollowness isn't a personal defect. It's the soul's protest against a counterfeit existence. When you begin to withdraw from that script, everything shifts. People around you may react with confusion or even hostility. They may say you've changed, that you're selfish, that you're difficult. But their reactions reveal more about their dependence on your old role than about your true self. What they miss isn't you. It's the mask you wore for their benefit. This stage requires courage, because loneliness often arrives as a companion. You may lose friends who only valued your compliance. You may distance yourself from environments that once felt safe, but now feel suffocating. It can feel like exile, but Jung taught that this solitude is sacred. It is not abandonment, it is initiation. It's in this solitude that you begin to meet yourself without distraction, without performance, without compromise. And here's the paradox. Once you accept this solitude, it stops feeling like loneliness. It transforms into presence, your own presence. You discover that you can stand alone, that you don't need to constantly fill the silence with noise, that your worth isn't dependent on constant validation. Gradually, new connections emerge. Not the shallow ties that depended on your availability, but deeper relationships rooted in respect and authenticity. These people don't need you to perform. They don't punish your boundaries. They don't vanish when you assert your truth. They resonate because they, too, are walking a path of awakening. In this way, your solitude becomes fertile ground. From it grows clarity, strength, and a new kind of community. Not a crowd, not a collective mask, but a gathering of individuals who see each other as they are. Jung called this conscious community not based on conformity, but on authenticity. This is the reward of the collapse. You don't just lose the false, you gain the real. You stop living a life of appearances and begin living a life of substance. And though it may be quieter, it is infinitely richer. The question now is this: having stepped into this new space, what will you create with it? Because awakening isn't just about shedding illusions, it's about building a life, aligned with your truth. Awakening is not just about tearing down illusions, it's about construction. Once the mask dissolves and the false structures collapse, you're left with an open space. And in that space, the soul asks, now what will you build? For many, this is the most frightening part of the journey. Destruction, though painful, has its clarity. You know what to walk away from, what no longer fits, what must die. But creation requires vision, and vision requires trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the unknown, trust in life itself. Jung taught that individuation isn't a passive state. It's an active dialogue between the conscious and unconscious. Each decision you make from authenticity becomes a thread in the tapestry of your new life. Every time you choose truth over comfort, every time you say no to what depletes you, every time you honor your inner voice over the noise of the crowd you are building. Slowly, piece by piece, the architecture of the genuine existence takes form. This building doesn't look like perfection. It looks like trial and error, courage and mistakes, steps forward and setbacks. But unlike the old life, where you lived for approval, for roles, for appearances, this new life belongs to you. Its foundation is not external praise, but inner alignment. Think of it as a garden. At first, it feels empty, barren, But each authentic choice is a seed. At first, you see nothing. Then small sprouts appear, moments of joy, glimpses of peace, flashes of creativity. Over time, these seeds grow into a landscape that reflects who you truly are. The world may not understand this garden. Some may dismiss it because it doesn't match their measures of success. Others may envy it because it shines with freedom. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that you can finally breathe in it. You can finally live in it. This is also where synchronicity becomes more frequent. As you align with your truth, life begins to respond. You meet the right people at the right time. Opportunities appear in unexpected ways. Doors open that logic alone cannot explain. It's as though the universe itself rearranges to support those who dare to live authentically. Yet, Jung warned against expecting this path to be without struggle. Even in the garden, weeds will grow. Old habits will try to return. Fear will whisper again. But now you know the difference. The weeds don't mean you failed. They mean you're alive. Growth always comes with maintenance, with vigilance, with care. The beauty of this stage is that you finally realize you are not a victim of life. You are a participant in its unfolding. And the more authentically you participate, the richer and more meaningful the unfolding becomes. This leads us to the final truth Jung wanted us to understand. Transformation is not a one-time event. It is a lifelong dialogue. Transformation is not a destination. It is a rhythm, a lifelong unfolding. You will cycle through collapse and renewal many times, each stage calling you deeper into your truth. There is no final mask to wear, no final perfection to achieve. There is only authenticity, moment by moment. So if you're here, feeling lost, broken, or uncertain, know this. You are exactly where you need to be. The collapse is not your end, it is your beginning. If this message resonates, support our channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Walk with us as we awaken together.